I think I get to do introductions for this one. This is Digital Tools. Our presenters today are Claire Tryon and Jake Blackall. Claire is our Planning and Education Coordinator. She previously served as an AmeriCorps member with the Preservation Alliance of West Virginia and the Appalachian Forest National Heritage Area, and she earned her Master's in Public History from WVU. After work, you can often find Claire hosting her book club or spending time with her dog, Bailey.
That's true.
And then our other presenter is Jake Blackall. He's currently serving as an AmeriCorps member with the Preservation Alliance of West Virginia, placed with the Jefferson County Historic Landmarks Commission. In December, Jake graduated from Shepherd University with a bachelor's in history. I'll let you guys take it away.
Great. Sorry, I don't have a fun fact about Jake. But there are all sorts of digital tools available to connect your community with your commission and the work that you all are doing, as well as the historic resources within your community. So today we'll be reviewing a couple, primarily websites, social media, tours, and mapping, and Canva, which is a graphic design resource. The final two, the tours and Canva, are a little bit more supplemental, but they can go a long way in terms of enhancing your website and social media platforms. There are all sorts of web development systems available to you. I focused on WordPress, Wix, and Squarespace, and Weebly because they're among the most top rated of the resources available. These just make it easier to create your own websites, especially if you don't have any sort of special knowledge in terms of coding. And they tend to be user-friendly and affordable. Jake will be telling you next about his specific experience using WordPress. But basically, when it comes to selecting a website builder, it'll really benefit you to think about what features are important for you to have, how much time you can spend on your website. You know, something like WordPress has a bit more of a learning curve versus something like Wix is a little bit more do it and go. And then what you want to get out of it. So some things like Squarespace is a little bit more commerce oriented and things like that. All right, Jake.
Hey, everybody. So a fun fact about me is I am not super tech savvy, which makes WordPress a great tool because it's fairly intuitive. It's really easy to get into and kind of play around in without jeopardizing the content of your website. So the Jefferson County Historic Landmarks website, I did not create. I don't want to take any credit for that, but I did take over management of the website back in August. And when I took over the website, we found out that we pay for a number of subscriptions, and those subscriptions were not established on the commission email. They were established by a couple of AmeriCorps members prior to me. So the first thing that I had to overcome was getting those subscriptions back to restore the functionality of the website. One, Elementor being the primary one, that's our page builder. Oh, you can leave it back on the first slide. So Elementor here, you can see on that bottom image, it's, like I said, it's a page builder. So if you were to be able to have a mouse and kind of highlight each of these individual sections, you'd see that you could edit from this page. And that's really important because you can see changes in real time. You don't need to have any coding experience. And you can preview any changes before you apply them to the website as it's visible to patrons. There's no, you don't, all you really have to do is download Elementor. And whereas WordPress is like a website builder, Elementor is the page builder. That kind of gives you your ability to go in and change like the minute stuff. Okay, you can switch over to the next slide now. So like I said, Elementor is a plugin. Plugins are to websites what apps are to phones. Basically, you can download them. You can add functionality that way. You can personalize it that way. There's something like 50,000 free plugins that you can use, and there are quite a few more paid subscription ones. Like I said, Elementor is a plugin. There's also Elementor Pro, which we pay for, which kind of just gives you more options. It enables you to do more things. Like some of the content that we have on our websites contains videos, contains links to brochures, all of that stuff, or at least all of the buttons to get to that stuff, they're made through Elementor. The next plugin that we use, and I'm only going to go through the one other plugin because, like I said, there's so many. But Jetpack is the one, it's probably my favorite. Jetpack is a multi-purpose tool. Oh, you could flip over to the next slide, Claire. I'm sorry. So Jetpack is a multi-purpose tool. You can use it to make your website faster, clean up some code stuff. You can improve security with it. And most importantly, as a public outreach tool, you can track statistics with it. So you can see here, these are just page views on, I think it's a monthly basis that I had here. But if you were to click on the detailed view, you could see where that traffic is coming from, if it's being brought in through Facebook links or Google, or if they're just coming through your homepage. You can also track it all the way back to, I think, the time that you download Elementor, or excuse me, Jetpack. So you could see all the way back to, I think ours goes to 2017. And you can see by day, by week, by year, how many people you're drawing in. And like I said, what's bringing them in there. So that's kind of really all I had prepped. Basically, WordPress is a great tool if you're not necessarily tech savvy, which I said I'm not. You can get in there, you can kind of play around with it, get comfortable, and not have to worry about affecting what's being seen publicly. And then when you do want to make changes, it's very easy to get in there and implement those. So thank you.
Jake, in prepping for this real quick, you said that you had a recent experience with WordPress that you wanted to share with everybody. Or would you like to hold that for the end?
Oh, yes. So what Claire's referring to is we recently, the Jefferson County Courthouse was made a National Historic Landmark. And when that was announced, we changed our brochure for the Jefferson County Courthouse. And like I said, the brochures on our webpage are linked through buttons created on Elementor. And I found out that when you're using Chrome to go in and edit, the window that I needed to go and put that new brochure in didn't appear in Chrome. I had to go into Microsoft Edge is what I used finally to get it done. But so there are some wonky functionality things like that you need to watch out for. Different browsers don't support some different tools. I wish I had an exhaustive list of what those are, but I'm just kind of finding them as they come up.
Right. Thank you, Jake. So social media, obviously, we all use it, or I'm assuming we all use it. I use it. I'm chronically online. It's a problem. But according to Forbes, I'm not the only one, because an estimated 4.9 billion people use social media across the globe, and that number is only going to rise within the next 5 years. People are on a variety of sites, and people also, according to Forbes, internet users tend to use 6 to 7 social media platforms every single month. The top 3 being Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And you'll see different information on your screen, but basically what I wanted to touch on with social media is that it's very important for maintaining a connection to your audience and to your community. In the statewide historic preservation plan, which Sandra mentioned earlier, two of our goals are awareness and education. And it could be an overlooked resource, but social media plays a part in maintaining people's awareness and of resources in their community, whether it's a shared story about an event or a shared link to a GoFundMe to raise funds. Or in terms of education, talking about doing like a highlight, which I'm sure is something the Jefferson County Landmarks Commission does through Jake's work. And it's just important in terms of, you know, getting it to be a little, a subtle part of everybody's day, the resources and historic preservation education. And in terms of like the demographic information I have on the screen, it's just about who you want to connect to in terms of age, and that comes from understanding the demographics of your community. Facebook is a great catch-all because obviously you can see the audience tends to be between the ages of 18 and 64 on average, whereas something like Instagram and TikTok skews towards a younger age. And obviously you have to think of different types of content. In terms of the data you can receive, Facebook, from my time working as an AmeriCorps member at Arthurdale, if you go to schedule post, which is something you can do like at the beginning of the month, schedule a bunch of posts, so that way you don't have to think about it every single day. Because I know a lot of you have, you know, jobs, and this is just an additional part of your day. So if you go in, schedule posts at the beginning of the month, it can maintain engagement because they say you should make posts at least a couple of times a week, if not every day. You can actually go in when you're scheduling the posts and find out when people are looking at your page and engaging with your content the most, and even how old those people are and what gender they tend to be. And that's just important information in terms of like, it can be important for when you receive grant funding for workshops, so you can tailor it towards a specific audience. I also wanted to highlight, because I find these both to be really cool, digital maps and tours, which are created through Clio and Story Maps. Clio, our very own Cody Straley has worked with before. Clio is an online guide to historical and cultural sites throughout the United States. It actually started at Marshall University. Clio is a nonprofit, and it's a collection of entries on historic resources, and it provides a concise summary of that place. These summaries can be linked together to make different heritage tours or a tour of a museum itself. These include turn-by-turn directions. They're all often linked to Google Maps. And at the bottom of the page, the people who create the entries are required to link to their sources, which, you know, is great in providing additional information to the audience. And all entries are vetted before they're released to the public. Whereas Story Maps is a little bit more interactive in terms of being more geared as a storytelling platform, and you can cover a diverse array of topics, including ancestry, arts, science, via this platform. Entries always include some sort of map, and then the text around it is to provide more context to that. I will say with Story Maps versus Clio, there is a bit more of a learning curve when it comes to creating an entry, but there's also more creative freedom. Clio is, you know, the entry and the tour, versus Story Maps. You can create presentations, and virtual exhibits. And then Story Maps has a function where you can embed your project into a website. So I was going to go through an example, and I think I lost the links for that, so I don't want to hold us up too much. See if I can find it. Yeah. Okay. Of course, my computer is extremely slow. Habitually. But should be okay, great. So this is what your basic tour on Clio looks like. It'll have all the entries listed, and then a general description as well as the Google Maps. What I wanted to point out specifically with this is you can generate a printable version of the map, which is helpful in case you go offline. But I found with Clio, you can generally access it even with very little internet. And then the other is this tour has been viewed how many times, which is, again, important for providing reporting information on impact, especially if you got some sort of funding to create a tour like this. Oh, that's fine. Okay. And then ArcGIS, I'm guessing it hasn't come up yet.
Not yet.
Okay, so sorry, everyone. Okay. So Story Map, I found you can provide a lot more contextual information, which you'll now see on your screen, if it ever decides to load. And this is of, unfortunately, I was not able to find a West Virginia college in comparison that had used Story Maps. So I chose something a little bit more comparable, but you can provide more contextual information in terms of providing an introduction, and then because the maps are embedded into the tour, you have the information surrounding it, versus when I showed you Clio, it was a description and then all the individual entries, which obviously provide more expansive information on those resources versus this, which later on, if it would ever load, you can click on the points and it'll provide you information about the site along with a historic photo. So we got to that portion. So you have the entry, which is not as expansive as Clio's, and the historic photo, but you are interacting with it on the map. You also don't get turn by turn instructions with this. A lot of it is dependent on whatever map people decide to use. Another downside to story maps is if you don't have a subscription, you're limited in what resources you can add. So you can add photos, but you wouldn't be able to add, like if you wanted to create like an audio tour, but you would be able to add video to something like this. But takes you in terms of the functionality, and then you can have different sorts of map to show change over time, basically. No, oh, I clicked the wrong thing. Shoot. The last thing I wanted to talk to you all about today is Canva, which is a online graphic design resource. What's important about Canva is you can create a variety of social media graphics, presentations, and publications with it, such as brochures, infographics, and flyers. If you have a free account, you'll have access to tons of user-friendly templates to create these kinds of things. If you like a design, it's also really easy to replicate. You can just click on it and say copy, and then edit with new information. Of course, one of the downsides is there's a lot of stuff behind a paywall, but Canva just makes it easier for you once you have your website or social media in a place where you like it to maintain a consistent look, which is important for people to understand. What I'm trying to say is, so sorry, so that everything that comes from you is identifiable as being part of your organization. So whatever platforms you end up using will help you connect with people in your community, as well as with your community with your historic resources. So thank you for your time. This is normally where I would share my email, but I'm sure you all have it because I share it. I send you all things too much. But thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute or pop them in the chat. I'm sure Jake has more he could share about his experiences working with WordPress.
Thank you both. I think Skip from Lewisburg's Landmarks Commission has a great point to have a walking tour maybe printed and on Canva, or not Canva, oh my gosh, on Clio. That way you have kind of both ways to do that. You maybe for, Clio for people who can, download the app and have their phone and have cell phone service.
Yeah.
And printed version in case, cell phone service is out or in case you just are tired of looking at your phone. So great tools. Great.
Is there a QR for Clio?
Yeah, so with Clio, that'll actually, the page will generate the QR code for you, which you can see like on the landing page for the tour.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so it even has their logo on it as like a branded resource. Yeah.
Claire, I have a question for you.
Great.
What kind of funding is available to pay for these tools?
So that's a great question, Meredith. It's like I've never heard it before. I would say there is funding available through the Humanities Council. They provide mini grants and they also have media grants for website development funding. And I can share a link with you all to their grant website. Yeah. but that's the main one I know of off the top of my head. Our office would provide for like brochure walking tour development, and an aspect of that could be through a supplemental aspect of that would be kind of like Skip said with a printed and the development of Canva.
And that would be our survey and planning grant. So you'd get,
Yeah.
you know, we'd pay 70% for CLGs. Oh, always good.
Yeah, by the CVB, which is a great resource. I know many CVBs across the state provide funding for printing of brochures and promotional materials.
Yeah, you should always hook up with your CVB if you haven't yet. I think they're always a great tool, funding and otherwise. They're just great to connect with. So, alrighty. Well, we don't have any other questions. Okay. Well, I think that maybe we'll end it there today then, a little bit early, which is great. We can all go have our lunches if we haven't been snacking behind the scenes anyway. So, but thank you all, and we'll see you again tomorrow. This is all being recorded, and we will, like I said, send out the presentations and things like that. So.